Hey, it's John at Tinderbox Arts. I'm doing some maintenance on my Triumph Bonneville here, and one of the items I'm crossing off my list is changing the spark plugs. The spark plugs are pretty easy to change, however there are some details to think about, and I do see some mistakes being made by people doing this for the first time, so I thought I'd just do a quick video on it. Now let me just mention there are two different ways typically that you'll see spark provided to the spark plug. One is the method that you see here, so you have a boot right here and a wire which leads up to a coil which is mounted on the bike frame up here. That's a very traditional way of doing it. On my other bike, the R1200 RT, and this is more of a modern way of doing it, you'll get a coil that is mounted directly on the plug. So either way, there's a spark plug underneath, but there are two different methods of getting the spark to the plug. In both cases, however, you need to remove either the boot or the coil that's directly on the plug and get that out of the way so you can get to the plug and remove it from the cylinder head. Now right now I have this bike up on a stand, and that's why you see this strap right here. It's to tie it to the stand so it doesn't fall off of me. So that's a little bit in the way, but we can work around it. So in this case, to get the spark plug boot off, typically what you'll do is just try to get your hands in there as best you can and kind of wiggle the plug a little, or the boot a little bit, and it should come off. And this does come off easily. So that's what the boot looks like. As soon as I take that boot off, what I want to look for are any marks around the boot that would indicate that spark, instead of going to the spark plug, is going to ground. So you'll see a little white mark here sometimes. Sometimes you'll even see a crack in the boot. This one looks good. I don't see any problems. And the other thing I'll do, which I'm probably not going to be, well, I might show you on camera, is down deep in there, I want to look for any corrosion, again, any white marks, any indication that the spark is not going to the plug itself. Now, if we look down in the hole here, you can see that spark plug is buried pretty deep in there. So we're going to need to get a socket that will reach down in there. And one thing you got to be cautious of, both removing the plug and putting it in, is that you could potentially break it off. This top part here, I'll show you more closely in a minute, is made of ceramic, and you can just crack it right off. So we want to try to avoid that. What we'll do is get a spark plug socket in there, and that spark plug socket, I'll show you, has a rubber insert inside, which helps protect it from moving back and forth and accidentally damaging that plug. So here's an example of a spark plug socket, and if you look on the middle of the inside there, I want to try to get a shot. You can see there's like a neoprene insert inside the socket, and the point of that is to help center the socket over the spark plug, and therefore you won't crack off the tip because you are centered, and the rubber itself provides some cushioning. Now if you don't have one of these, you can still get the spark plug out with a regular socket, but you just have to be very cautious about keeping that socket centered. Now before I take the spark plug out, I want to make sure there's nothing in there that could fall in the cylinder once I remove the spark plug. So any stones or debris, whatever, any of that falls in the engine, that could be trouble. And it's especially tough when the spark plug is oriented upright like it is here, because it's very easy for gravity just to suck a stone right down into that piston chamber, and then you get a problem. So I'll use compressed air or whatever I need to do to get that out. Now you're going to use a socket extension or whatever you need to do, whatever you got to put together in order to physically get in there. This particular bike has 2 cylinders, and there's 1 plug per cylinder. Some bikes have 2 plugs per cylinder. My RT has that, for example. It's usually pretty easy to figure out which plug wire goes where, but if you have any question, you can mark it. So I'm going to get in here, make sure that I'm seated in there, and it clicks down. Remember, that little rubber thing insert inside the socket needs to be over the top of the spark plug, and then I'm just going to crack it open, and it shouldn't really be that tight. This one is not, so that's good. And then once I just loosen it up, I'm going to do the rest by hand. These threads can be cross-threaded pretty easily. When you're removing it, usually it's not a problem, but you never know what's going to happen, especially if it's a bike new to you. So I just like to do everything by hand. That's the plug out, and I should be able to just lift that, and there's our plug. Now I'm going to put this aside, and I want to remember which cylinder it came from. I'll show you why in a second. All right, here are my 2 plugs sitting side by side. This is a great opportunity to see what the tune of the engine is, make sure the fueling looks good, and that there's no problems with the cylinder firing, and this looks excellent. So these are in very good shape. Really, they don't need to be replaced probably, but I'm in here already doing some other work, and it's easy to get to. They're not that expensive. What you want to see is a gray kind of an ashy appearance to the electrode, and that's what we see here. This part right here where I'm pointing, that should be that gray ashy color. If you look at the white tip in there, I'm out of focus, there we go. It's got a little bit of kind of a reddish deposit to it. That's fine, that's normal, that's just from the fuel. These look excellent. You'll see some black carbon on the ends of the threads, again, totally normal. What you don't want to see is heavy oil deposits. That would show that there's a problem internally with the engine. You don't want to see other colors than gray. If it's very black, if it's extremely white, like almost hot white, that's a problem too. You probably are not going to see that on a modern bike, but on an older bike you might see something like that. These all look excellent, so this is what you want to see. Now let's look at the new plugs. These are the exact same brand and model actually, and we want to make sure that they look the same when we put them side by side. So even though they are the same, you always want to check it. And of course you notice one thing right away that's different, right? This new one has this kind of a tip on it, a bulbous tip on it, and this one just has a screw for a tip. Why is that? Well, these plugs are used for various applications, not just your bike or your car. They can be used for multiple things. So some applications require this little tip on it, some do not. In this case it does not, and what we'll do is just unscrew that little tip. You may have to use a pair of pliers, sometimes it'll come off by hand, but that will come off and then it will look like this. So we want to remove those, and then we also want to look at the length of the threads to make sure they line up. The base here with the electrode, we want to make sure those line up. If this sticks too far into the cylinder, that could be a problem. So we want to make sure these are physically identical, assuming the one you took out is correct. Now, let me talk about something that's really important these days, which is the authenticity of the spark plug. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people making fake plugs, and if they're not genuine, you could run into some real problems. This is the NGK brand, very well-known brand, it's a very good plug. However, there are counterfeit versions of it, and the counterfeit versions are so good as far as the packaging and the look of it that even professionals will have difficulty telling them apart. So how do you know? Well, one thing you can do is to purchase the plugs from an auto parts store. And I say that because an auto parts store is part of a long supply chain where there are checks and balances, and it's less likely that a counterfeit plug will sneak into an auto parts store. It's not impossible, but it's less likely. Another thing you could do is to contact the manufacturer and have them confirm that they are authentic. I did exactly that for these plugs. It was very simple. I just contacted them through their website. They got back to me very shortly and asked for 3 pictures, specific angles, and I sent those pictures, and within minutes they got back to me that these were in fact authentic. So that's a second method. And finally, we could put a meter on these to make sure they measure the same way. If they don't, that kind of indicates there might be a problem. Now, I never used to do that in years past, but because of this counterfeit problem, it's something that I started doing. So let me show you how that works. So I've got my meter set up here on the kilo-ohm scale. And what I want to see is that the new plugs measure about the same. It's probably not going to be exact, but about the same. And where I'm measuring is from this tip and then that pointy tip inside, not the end, but the pointy tip inside. And let's just see what we get. I'll try to get this on camera, which is a little tricky. If I get my... So I'm getting 4.57 kilo-ohm. And then let's look at the other one. This one I'm getting 4.9 kilo-ohm. So that's pretty close, and close enough for me. What I don't want to see is way off, like if one was 4 point whatever and the other one is 1. You know what I mean? You don't want to see anything major like that. That would indicate there's a problem with the plug. And just to be clear, I'm measuring from this point to the little pointy area. The little pointy area inside, not the end. All right, let's talk about gapping. When we talk about the gap, we're talking about the space between this outer electrode right there and that pointy one inside there. I'm trying to get that good on camera for you. So that space in there is what we're talking about when we talk about the gap. Now, you may think that these come pre-gapped, and they do, generally speaking. For most applications, when you buy a spark plug, it's generally going to be the correct gap for your application, but not always. Sometimes you do need to change the gap, and there could be problems. So when these spark plugs ship, they have this little cardboard thing here covering that electrode. They're supposed to protect it. Sometimes it's not there in the box, or the manufacturer doesn't provide it. Sometimes somebody's taken a spark plug out of a box and changed it and put it back and returned it. I've seen all sorts of things. So generally speaking, yes, they're pre-gapped, but I never assume that it's going to be correct because I have had experiences where it's not. Now, to gap a spark plug, we're going to use a tool, something like this. They come in different configurations. This is my favorite one because it's a linear line here. There's also a round one, which is maybe more common. But what happens is, if I try to turn this on the side, you can see it's very thin at the bottom and it gets thicker at the top. And that corresponds to these numbers here, which is the gap. So if we need to change the gap, the way it's done is to slide in at the smallest point, or thinnest point I should say, and then slide it up carefully, and these two electrodes will start to get a bigger gap. If you need a smaller gap, you need to use a tool to just push that down a little bit. Now, this particular spark plug right here is called iridium, and the point you can see right inside there is very fragile. It's very tiny. And it would be very easy to damage that. Normal or regular or typical spark plugs are not like that. You could be a little more rough with them. And so using this tool with a normal spark plug is no big deal. Using it with this, though, you do have to be careful not to damage that tip. So generally speaking, they come gapped correctly, but don't count on it, and I always check it. All right, so to prepare this one for installation, I am going to remove this tip here. So I'll just unscrew that. That comes off just like that. Now it looks like the old one, right? There's a crush washer. You see that little washer right there that's moving? That's a crush washer. When we install this, we're going to screw it down carefully by hand, not with a tool, but by hand. I mean, you could use a socket, but by hand. And then that crush washer will touch the cylinder head. At that point, we are almost home free. You don't want to gorilla these things in place. You don't want to put a whole bunch of force on this. Once that touches, it's probably going to be an eighth of a turn, maybe a quarter of a turn, and that's probably it. So let me show you how that works. Okay, so back at the bike here, I'm going to take my spark plug. I'm going to insert it into the socket first and make sure I seat it well. Make sure that, remember that rubber, neoprene rubber insert in there. I want to make sure that's good and stuck in there, all right? I'm going to take this now and put it into the threaded area. And this is a critical juncture, especially if you're new to this. You have to get those threads started correctly, and it's very easy to cross-thread them. And this is usually an aluminum head, and you'll get into serious trouble. So never use a tool other than the socket itself here. And I'm just using my hands. There's no socket wrench, just my hands. And I want to get that started. I want to be able to feel that. So I'm just twisting it, and I'm holding it upright till I feel that go in. So now I'm turning it, and I'm just about to hit bottom. Now sometimes when you get to the very bottom, you will need the socket wrench. But as long as you get that going correctly from the get-go, you're not going to have any problems. So I'm almost there. Let me get my socket wrench. Now I'll attach this, and I'm just carefully, I'm not sure if you can probably see that turning, but I'm just carefully making sure I've gotten to the point where it's just seated now. Now it's just seated. Watch how much I turn this wrench. I'm going to do this by feel. I'm not going to use a torque wrench. I'm going to do it by feel. I've done this a million times. But it's really not much of a turn. So I've just hit the cylinder head with a spark plug, and I'm just going to feel. That's it. So that was not quite a quarter of a turn. That's it. That crush washer now has crushed in place. I'll pick this up carefully so I don't break off the ceramic tip, and we are done. That is installed. What people tend to do is they really gorilla that on there, and then when the engine heats up, it gets even worse, and you will have trouble getting that out, or you will mess up the threads. So don't go crazy on this. Once you get that seated, it's probably no more than a quarter turn. All right, before we put that boot back on, I want to talk about dielectric grease. Some people swear that they do this every time. I will use it occasionally, but generally not. When I will use it is when I had difficulty getting that boot off. So especially in cars, there are some instances where it just gets very hot and that boot tends to stick to the spark plug, which makes it difficult to get off later. So in that case, I will sometimes use a little bit of dielectric grease inside the boot, which helps protect it from sticking to the spark plug later when I take it back out. Generally speaking, this is not needed unless you know you have a problem. So if you know you have corrosion and it's a continuing problem, if you know the spark plug boot sticks, fine, use it. But other than that, I generally do not use it. So the last thing we need to do is get this boot back installed, or if you have a coil that fits directly on the plug, then you'll put the coil back on. One more time, I'm going to look in there just to make sure I didn't miss anything, make sure it's clean in there, and then I'll make sure the cable is routed correctly, in which case we got to go in here. And then when I put it on, I want to feel and hear a good snap. So let me see if this probably won't come on camera, but I'll give it a try. Maybe you heard that. So that was a nice snap. It felt solid, and that's what I want to feel. So that is good. I'll do the other side, and that's really it. It's not difficult. But even though that process is simple, there are ways you can screw it up. So, people who are new to doing this may bugger up those threads, and that's a problem. They may let something fall into the engine. That's a problem. Sometimes they confuse wires and put one cylinder wire to the wrong one. I mean, there are ways you can screw it up. But if you just take your time, don't be a gorilla, and just follow the directions I've given you here, you should have no trouble.